There he is. There he is. There he is, folks. Not a big fish, but a little fish. And there he goes. Let's try it again. There's one. There's one. Oh no, he just got caught up. Oh, I got him loose. Little Roosevelt Lake pre-spawn bass. Look at that, folks. Come here, buddy. You know, folks, we're here, right here in the beginning of this is the pre-spawn, basically. The water temperature is moving from 56 up to about 58, 59 degrees, depending on the part of the day. We came out here in the afternoon, because as the afternoon gets going, the water temperature comes up, it's beautiful out, and these fish start roaming around and getting up into the shallows, things like that. But I came back here in a little brushy area, and one of my favorite all-time search baits, a lot of people kind of don't use much anymore, is that old rattle trap. Chrome with a black back. And let me tell you something, that little dude you can cover some water with, bring it over to the top of the little brush piles, and what we're doing is we can see the brush piles here, you can throw alongside of them, but there's also brush that's down here in the water that you can barely see. And the whole ticket is to bring the bait across the brush pile and tick the tops of the limbs and things like that with this bait. And as it comes through the water, this bait has a downward type motion like this, and it bumps right over those limbs. As soon as it ricochets off those limbs, boom, you get bit. So a lot of times when these fish start moving up, they hang close to these brush piles, and they just reach out and grab it. We're getting a reaction bite out of them. Now let's be honest, Roosevelt has not been a great lake the last month or so here. It's been really tough to get bit. And so what we're doing is trying to get a reaction strike out of them. There's a lot of guys, I actually watched a tournament that was going on, and even though 15 pounds won it, they had a big fish, all that. There was a lot of boats that only had 2, 3 fish. It was hard to get a limit, and even people drop shot and were having problems. So the whole thing is if you can't get them to get on a worm, a lot of times that's what they call the reaction bite. The reaction bite works well, and if you know where to go to find these fish, a lot of times you can catch a few bass on this reaction and have a lot of fun. There's one. There's one. Little guy, but he was there. That is a legit buck bass. One of the tricks of the trade here, what I'm doing is I'm keeping my boat in about 8 foot of water. I think it's important to understand how these fish move throughout the seasons, and that'll help you catch fish on a regular basis. And I've talked about it a lot, but I'll tell you, when the spring comes, and there's a couple of factors, it's the moon and it's the water temperature that help these fish move up into the shallows during the spring. And we've had a lot of cold fronts blow through. It seems like every week you're having a cold front blow through, and it's really cold, and it's keeping that water temperature down. So even though the moon has said, hey, it's becoming full, and we're here in March, a lot of folks was figuring, you know, that the fish would just move up on beds right away because of the moon. You still have to factor in that water temperature. And that water temperature needs to at least get up there around 58 steady. Not 58 at the end of the day, you know, and then drop to 55 or whatever it is at night or whatever. It has to stay constant somewhere in a decent temperature range for them to stay up there and find them shallow constantly. But right now, I'm keeping my boat in 8 foot of water and tossing up, and we're on this flat. This whole area that I've been fishing is nothing but a big flat, but if I keep my boat out far enough towards the end, I can throw up into shallow water and then bring it out into a little bit of deeper water where they might feel a little bit more comfortable and hopefully catch some of those fish. But it's definitely those couple of factors between the moon phase and the water temperature that's going to help these fish move up. Obviously, these fish want to move up. The moon and all that stuff, they want to move up, but they got to have that temperature just a little bit warmer, and we'll be catching a lot more shallower fish as the season progresses. So it's only going to get better from here, obviously, but if these cold fronts will stop for a week or so, these fish will start bumping up looking to make beds. so they can spawn and they'll move up shallow. And that's where you want to find them, in the flats, in the backs of coves, things like that. And you'll be catching them. You won't have to worry about fishing all these bluffs, so with a drop shot. So we're in that in-between stage of starting to try to move up and roam around a little bit, and that's what we're catching, those kind of fish. The ticket to this kind of fishing is when you throw it out there, you don't let this sink. This bait will sink. And man, if it gets in that brush, you're constantly going in there trying to get it out. You want to tick the tops of them. So what I do when I get it out there and it lands, I start automatically reeling. You know, a good 6.2 to 1 ratio reel or something like that will work good, something fast retrieved. You want to use 12-pound test line in this wood, and just keep it coming. Just keep making those fan casts and reeling somewhat fast to keep it out of the brush, because there's a lot of brush we're not seeing that's on top, and if you don't keep it coming, you're going to get caught up in all that. A lot of guys will throw out there, and you can let this thing sink 1 second, and you're caught in brush. So you got to start reeling as soon as it hits the water. Oh, there's one. Covered a little bit of water there. Little 1.5-pounder. Look at that. There we go. Look at how see how he slapped at it? Look how he slapped at it. That's a reaction strike. You know, it blows by their face, whack, they just reach out and grab it. What's fun about reaction baits is a lot of times what you're doing is talking this fish into biting or reacting on it when they're not feeding. Look at the belly on that little dude. He's eating something down there, whether it be crawdads or shad. There you go, buddy. Yeah, the cool thing about a reaction bite is you can cover a lot of water with this bait. That's one thing I do love about this bait. And I mean, you can put the trolling motor on and just go, and it's a lot of fun to throw. And on top of that, you know, like I said, when the fish aren't really biting, you can get them to react on this. A fish has a choice, and I've said this years and years, but when you bring that bait by a fish, he's got a choice. He's either gonna eat it or run from it. A lot of times, fish don't have hands, so the way they react is hitting everything with their mouth. They got a hard mouth, and so they just reach out and grab it. But that's the ticket right there, without a doubt. There's one. That's a good one. Or I got him hooked funny. He just smacked it good. He just smacked it good. Look at that. All right, bud, come on. Got to be real careful with them treble hooks. Look at that. I don't want him. Got him. Boy, when you pinch him, you got to pinch him hard and don't let go. You don't want them treble hooks in your hand. I'll tell you, as you can see, we kind of came across the flat here in the back of the cut. That's just a little, all these are little buck bass, but they're still fun to catch, especially early in the season to go fishing shallow. It's fun. Once in a while, you're gonna run across that big one that's up there roaming and catch it. But the thing is you gotta remember something this time of year in the spring, especially when you wanna go shallow this early. A lot of times those male bass will move up first, you know, and they're the first ones to move up. Big ones are kind of lollygagging along, but if you fish out a little deeper, you know, and not get too shallow, then that's why I'm keeping my boat in about 8 foot of water, you know, in some of these backs of these flats and stuff. But this is a big flat right here, and we're just going across the flat in the back of the cut and managed to catch him. That's all we're doing, is just covering a lot of water right now. And you can see a lot of stuff that you can throw at. And I'll be really honest with you. Here in the next week, you'll be able to throw Cincos in there and weightless baits, and you'll be able to throw soft jerk baits, things like that in the backs of these cuts like this, and just be catching fish like crazy. But right now, it's just not as good yet, but it will be. You know, the other thing I love about this bait is whether you're in clear water or whether you're in dirty water, it's got those rattles in it. And the thing, look at that, caught my glove. Sharp hooks. Anyways, with that rattle in there, what's cool is when you get to back some of these cuts, and a lot of them might muddy up a little bit, they can still hear that. And they'll zone in on it and run it down and grab it, you know? And the other thing I will tell you is when you're in a little bit clearer water, the little bit faster retrieve usually works better, you know? So if you're throwing out there in real clear water, you can see 4 or 5 feet down, you can reel a little bit faster. You get in the muddy water, you can slow it down a little bit. But the main thing is not getting caught up in these bushes. Roosevelt is notorious for having a ton of these little bushes right now. So you don't want to get caught up into those constantly. So you got to keep the retrieve speed going anyways. And you get a better reaction strike out of it anyways, I think, when you do that. About the only time I'd slow that reel down is like if I know I'm coming off brush and I can see on my pan optics that there's no other brush beyond the brush I'm looking at. So what I'll do is, you know, I'll slow it down right after I come out of the brush. And a lot of times slowing that retrieve down just a little bit, a lot of times might get a reaction strike out of a bass that might be following it anyway. There's one. There's one. He thinks he's 10 foot tall. He thinks he is. Little dude. Little buck bass. Hello, buddy. All right, I got you. Hang tight. We'll get you loose here. Wow. Another little rattle trap bass right there. I'll tell you what, the one thing I will say about this bait is it's a very versatile bait. And what I mean by that is, you know, we're just cranking and whining today, trying to keep it over tops of the treetops. That's our ticket today to catch a few fish. But the reality is it's used for other things. You know, you can have balls of shad in cuts or whatever and throw these things out. You can yo-yo them in. A lot of guys will throw it out there, let it fall to the bottom, and then just pick up on it and it'll go and then come back down, and you catch a lot of fish that way. There's guys that actually almost, Havasu is a lake where a lot of guys will take something like this and they're actually just kind of worming it. They let it fall out there and they'll get along the grass lines, they'll pull it right across the grass and just kind of, you know, get it out of the grass a little bit, pop it out of the grass, and then just kind of slow roll it and bring it across there, and almost like worming it. And catch a lot of fish doing it. There's a lot of guys that win tournaments with this particular bait. So this bait's a very versatile bait, kind of like what I would say, it's almost like a spinner bait. Spinner baits are that versatile as well, but this is an awesome bait for that kind of stuff. And if they are feeding on shad and small bait and stuff like that, you can definitely throw these. You know, if you find they're eating bluegill, like later in the season, when they start not liking the bluegill around the beds and stuff, you can throw these things in a bluegill pattern, in that color pattern, and still catch a lot of fish on them as well. Hey folks, for my tip of the week, one thing very important, when you buy rattle traps a lot of times, what happens is they come with these little chrome hooks. These hooks aren't nearly as good as the hooks that are out today. So in saying that, we've got to change these hooks out. You're looking at a little number 6 and a number 4. I'll change those out with some good owner hooks, and I'll tell you what, we'll catch some fish on it when they slap at it. Because a lot of times if you're using these kind of hooks, they're kind of dull, they're not nearly as sharp. And what happens is the fish will swipe at it and you just won't get the fish hooked. So you definitely want to change these hooks out, and it'll give you better odds on catching more fish. One thing I will say that's very important is to make sure you constantly, and we've said this many a times on the show, where you constantly fill your line. We are coming over a lot of rough stuff, rock and trees, and I can feel the roughness in my line. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break off, retie, and get back out to fishing with this bait. Hey folks, we're here with Terry Vance. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Hey, Johnny.
Right here, we're at Roosevelt Lake, but let me tell you something. He's not only done a great job with the frogs and the baits that he's given us with blitz lures, but now you've invented something really cool that has to be on every fisherman's boat. Why don't you explain to us the live foot?
Yep. Oh, thanks, Johnny. Hey, the live foot is really going to change the way you fish. When you're out spot locked in windy conditions and current, you want to be able to maintain that location, but still be able to scan for your fish and your brush piles. Now you can do that with the live foot. It comes with a hand remote, wireless, also wireless foot controls. You only need 12 volts ran to the unit. Everything is self-contained in the unit. And now you can independently turn your transducer and keep it on the school of fish in the brush pile.
So when you're on spot lock, basically you can stay on those fish. And this is going to be a huge game changer. I've been using it. It's helped me a ton. And a lot of guys asking me what this was. Now you know what it is. For the pan optics, it's been huge for me in any kind of wind, because we're spot locking a lot now. So This is the way to go.
Yep.
The live foot, you can get it at dd26fishing.com.
Yep.
You're working with Dave Davis
That's
on that.
Yep. Dave and the team's doing a great job. Really appreciate it. And we support all the models of the trolling motors, you know, the Garmin, the Lowrance, and the Minn Kota.
Awesome. So get yourself a live foot. It's going to be a game changer for you bass fishermen that are out tournament fishing. If you ain't got this, you're in big trouble. Man, I'm telling you what, you can get out and catch some of those early spring fish, get up in the shallows. Some things to remember, all right? In the spring, early in the spring, if you can find the dirtier water, it usually warms up quicker. And the clearer water doesn't warm up as much. So you sometimes can find a degree or two more in an area that's dirty water versus clear water. And the fish might be moving up in there quicker, which makes this rattle trap the ticket for what you need. This was a 1/2 ounce rattle trap today we used. Chrome back or black back or a blue back worked great with the chrome. And get out and experiment a little bit and try some of this stuff. It's a lot of fun, and this bait works year round, especially when they're chasing shad. But I'll tell you what, this was a fun day just to get out and catch some fish when the fishing's been tough. Thanks for joining us on the water. We'll see you next week. I'm Johnny Johnson.
Now, see, that's what I'm talking about, folks.